Embodying Kubrick's words throughout his career, George Tomasini is known for leading the post-production phases on Alfred Hitchcock's most popular and critically acclaimed films. This involvement with the Hitchcockian editing style helps bring about great fame for his director and value to cinema as a whole. In short, his efforts saw innovation in how the edit can manipulate viewer emotional response. Featured edits in this video essay include the psycho shower scene and the bird's school scene. Also featured is the I Married a Monster from Outer Space's drunk driving sequence that represents Tomasini outside of his Hitchcock collaborations. A psychological slasher, a natural horror thriller, and a sci-fi horror B-movie. These three films each represent Tomasini in a distinct subgenre in horror. Hence, this video essay's analysis seeks to understand how a scene's emotional response, specifically shock and suspense, is enhanced through Tomasini's editing mastery of the horror genre. Relative to the film's narrative codes, the continuity editing in I Married a Monster from Outer Space builds thematic nuances of paranoia towards the Cold War, social destabilization, and marriage dysfunction. The film somewhat subverts genre themes and other norms of the low-budget sci-fi films commonly found in 1950s drive-in theatres, with Tomasini undermining Married's Hitchcock-style point-of-view editing. For example, Married features a short drunk driving sequence comparable to the much longer scenes in other Hitchcock films like Notorious and North by Northwest. Influencing what the audience sees and their understanding of the narrative, Married's drunk driving sequence follows continuity editing to some extent by eyeline matching point of view and close-up shots. The sequence starts with a close-up of a tipsy Bill Farrell before cutting to his perspective. The point of view shot lasts rather shortly before quickly cutting away, emulating the immediateness of the body's appearance on the road to Bill. Breaking from continuity editing convention, Tomasini's next cut displays an exterior shot of the body in better detail before the car brakes sharply to avoid hitting it, then returns to Bill's close-up. Leaving his car, Bill then finds no body at all before being attacked by an alien who was concealed in some bushes, initiating the rest of the plot. This sequence twists the classic Hitchcock technique of showing viewers something a character does not see to create suspense. The body on the road is a red herring used by the alien to ambush Bill and by Tomasini to misdirect the audience's attention in preparation for a scare. The subversion comes from how both Bill and the viewers are shown the body in the point of view shot before it vanishes and the alien appears instead. This subverts how a Hitchcock character typically does not see an object until perhaps much later. Meanwhile, adding to the suspense build up through shot succession, viewers are aware of the object from the onset. Within the wider context of the film, his editing misdirection ties into one of Married's greater themes in which marriage is a trap, dooming both participants to fall into it. The bird's school scene consists of Tomasini editing a long take and an associative montage editing, as well as some manipulation of the 180-degree rule to create Hitchcockian suspense as a murder of crows assembles behind an unaware Melanie Daniels. Unlike the other text in this video essay, this scene showcases a more typical Hitchcock-styled approach wherein the pattern of the birds was deliberately to go slow. This contrasts with the usual fast-paced editing of montage with the techniques analysed here, perfectly exemplifying this slow-paced approach. As Melanie exits the Bodega Bay schoolhouse, the long take begins before she descends the steps, looks around at her surroundings for a moment, then leisurely strolls over to a bench and takes a seat. Lasting for about 46 seconds, this shot sets Melanie up as the isolated victim, ignorant to the upcoming threat. A cut shifts the camera to a wide shot of Melanie's right hand side, hiding the climbing frame off screen and beginning the montage sequence. Melanie then proceeds to smoke a cigarette for most of the scene, a minuscule detail normally used to add some action when multiple characters converse, whereas here it serves to support her unawareness. The camera is positioned directly in front of Melanie so that the climbing frame and single crow are shown in the background. Cutting back and forth between Melanie smoking and the ever-growing number of crows creates a temporal juxtaposition with a predator-prey dynamic. Space is also further manipulated in Melanie's footage, where each cut back to her puts the camera closer to her, i.e. it goes from the wide shot to a mid shot, then a close-up, etc. As their number grow with each shot, the crows are taking their time, waiting for the best moment to strike. Some brief point-of-view shots in this montage feature Melanie reacting to one crow descending from the sky to join the others as she rises from the bench and leaves. Here, Tomasini's montage juxtaposes the subject's motions, focusing attention on the suspense between the attacks themselves. Plot-wise, the crow's montage arrival foreshadows their pursuit of the school children, which is fitting for creatures that some cultures associate as harbingers of death or misfortune. Regarding the crow's relationship with the rest of the narrative, female characters often seem to initiate transitions into bird scenes, e.g. Lydia Brenner's gaze dissolves to a shot of Melanie as if she's following her son's love interest. Now the playground of crows become the overbearing mother's metaphorical eyes watching over Melanie, while the birds themselves multiply in preparation to lash out. On the whole, the flock is portrayed as both a menacing threat and its own character, all developed through Thomas Tomasini's presentation of shots. Thus, his techniques extend the film's flow of space and time in pursuit of developing the threat and creating suspense. In Psycho shower scene, particularly regarding Tomasini's editing of sound and image, the relationship between subject matter and formal filmmaking techniques serves to shock viewers. The effective use of techniques enhances the violence and audacity of the murder. This scene can also be considered an example of the Hitchcock-Tomasini collaboration, in which the editor broke away from the director's usual editing approaches. The murder itself consists of a series of fast cuts, featuring close-ups of Marion Rain's terrified expression, the knife descending towards her as the killer looms above, and the flow of bloody water. Throughout all this, an oral accompaniment of screams, holy stabbing noises, and screeching theme music intensifies Marion's final moments. The music's decrescendo occurs in sync with Marion slumping against the wall, mirroring the ebbing away of her failing heart. Both contemporary conventions and Hitchcock's personal, suspense-based style were mostly disregarded by Tomasini in this scene in favour of the fast-cutting technique. He relies on the shock value of his editing to elicit terror rather than a careful build-up of selective shots and steadily paced cuts. Still, the Hays Code censorship should be acknowledged for creating the restrictive environment that the scene was shot and edited in. Also of interest is this match cut between the bath draining out the water and blood to the extreme close-up of Marion's lifeless eye. It signifies her life washing away, as an audible gurgling sound effect comes from the plumbing below. Contrasting with the usual routine of Hitchcockian suspense editing, Tomasini's frenetic fast cuts convey the shock and terror anyone will feel in such a situation. Likewise, the follow-up audio synchronization and match cut provide a poetic sense of finality to Marion's life. Overall, this analysis of Tomasini's style has uncovered how he manipulates viewer emotion and perception in his works. I Married a Monster from Outer Space's drunk driving sequence subverts the traditional use of eyeline matching to misdirect viewers, embracing the narrative themes of paranoia and marital dysfunction. In The Birds, the school scene uses montage and a long take to construct slow-paced suspense in a more traditionally Hitchcockian manner that also develops the crows as their own characters within the narrative. The editing of the Psycho shower scene terrifies the audience through fast-cutting, well-synced sound and a visual metaphor formed by the match cut. Tomasini was comfortable editing at both ends of the spectrum, a master of the slow, suspenseful build-up and also the frenzied, fast-paced shocker.